It was homecoming weekend, which I've been dreading because, man, oh man, my dad gets to come in and meet all my teachers. I was in the back of the math class, hiding in my hoodie, slapping down my dad's hand every time he tries to enthusiastically answer my teacher's question in his broken English. Sometimes I'd even answer for him, because I didn't want anyone thinking we weren't American enough. As we were leaving my school, I watched all the cars pass by, Range Rovers, Teslas, Porsche. And when I got in my car, I hid in my hoodie, hoping that no one noticed that my dad drove a hybrid. You see, I am a first-generation Vietnamese-American girl with parents who moved to America in the hopes of finding a better life for themselves, more importantly, for my sister and me. When I was 2, I knew my multiplication facts back to front. Một lần một là một, một lần hai là hai. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2. At the age of 2, I shared their fear of not working hard enough. So, getting ahead on work was a way to set myself up for success. When I was in 2nd grade, I already had a full schedule with limited leisure time. Sunday, 11 a.m., go to piano class. 1 o'clock, go to art class. 2 o'clock, do my most hated thing, nap time. From 3 to 6, do any type of academic work. 6 o'clock, do my second most hated thing, shower time, then go to bed. You see, another sign of how well my parents raised me was respecting others, especially elders. So when I'd visit family relatives, I'd bow as a sign of respect, or I'd kindly reject their birthday money for me, because my mom believed that I shouldn't receive anything I didn't earn. It wasn't until 6th grade where I started to realize that Vietnamese culture and norms weren't the only ones I had to deal with. I remember it was my friend's birthday party, and they'd give me the side eye when I'd bow to their parents. It was from these American birthday parties where I started to secretly enjoy eating greasy, artery-clogging cheeseburgers. I learned the Boston culture, more importantly, the American culture. When I was hanging out with more of my Boston friends that worked with me at a school program called Stepping Stone, I was exposed to more of the American culture. And I secretly began to love all the things I knew my parents would disapprove of. I remember when I started singing, yo, or y'all, or I started listening to hip hop. And so, when a friend's mom was driving me home from volleyball practice, she pulled up to my school, and I heard rap music coming out of her car, and I was like, my parents better not be able to hear that. I was so anxious and flustered until I walked into that car, and where I felt the song coursing through my body, and I screamed, I kept it like 100, like I'm running a fever. Might take a breather, won't ever leave ya. If I was you, I wouldn't like me either. I was exhilarated until we pulled up to my house, where all of my anxieties came flooding back. I kept hearing this voice within my head saying, you ain't Vietnamese if you're listening to this crap. If I was you, I wouldn't like me either. I threw out all of my school belongings, feeling bad for being ashamed of my musical taste. I always felt like I had one foot in each culture, where I fully couldn't be Vietnamese or American. You know, growing up in Dorchester, more specifically Fields Corner, I didn't have to worry about socioeconomic differences with my classmates until I went to Dana Hall in 7th grade, a prestigious, all-girl, wealthy private school in the suburbs of Boston, that I became a minority. When I excitedly asked a new friend to sleep over at my house, she quietly said to me, yeah, sorry, my mom said that Dorchester is dangerous because she heard about a recent shooting there. According to her and her mom, who's never been to Dorchester, was afraid that Dorchester was too dangerous for the high numbers of drug addicts and the frequent shootings. And I don't think she'll ever realize how shameful she made me feel about myself, my neighborhood, and my home. So now if someone did want to come to my house, I'd be scared it ain't as big enough as their $1 million house, another house of theirs on an island, or another beach house of theirs. Just as I learned how to figure out how to keep my Vietnamese and Boston identities separate, I felt like there was a Dana culture I couldn't be a part of until I suppressed those identities. And as I began to understand how to conform to Dana cultures, white lies became my easy escapes. See, there was a new workshop for new Dana parents, and I wanted my dad to go. I wanted to show him new parts of me, to show him Dana and American me, to show him all of me. But when my friend had quickly asked if I wanted them to go, I said, sorry, my parents were sick. If only they knew how much I wanted him to go. But I was just scared he would speak in his broken English and be too Vietnamese to understand anything of Dana tradition and culture. But part of me also understood that if he went, he'd miss time off of work, which gives him the money to put food on the table, and I knew that was more important than getting to know me. But you see, there were days where I couldn't just hide behind white lies, where I couldn't just drop one identity for the other. When I was back at home working in Boston at Stepping Stone, a Saturday study hall, these kids were being disruptful and disrespectful to me and my coworkers. I immediately thought, this wouldn't have happened at Dana. They all know how to listen to their teacher. I was mortified, shocked at why I would have said this. And when I did tell the kids to quiet down, I said, hey, I don't know who y'all talking to, but y'all kids better sit your butt down before I get y'all in trouble. And now, I'm shocked at what I've said to these kids, because I know I'd never use that voice at Dana. The tone those girls would call too ghetto. Every day began and ended the same way, where I'd put up a facade, paint the best American me at school, go home to parents who told me it wasn't acceptable to listen to hip-hop, and then speak in my broken Vietnamese. So back to homecoming. As I slowly walked out of my math class, my father, dragging one foot forward, my dad puts his right arm around me and asks me in Vietnamese, "Mấy giờ con đi chơi volleyball ba muốn đi?" What time's your volleyball game? I want to go. I immediately stepped away from him, looked around to make sure no one was close enough to hear him speak, and I quietly said, shh, Dad, you're talking too loud, and it's volleyball, making sure I was pronouncing every word as clearly and perfectly as I could. And as we were walking towards the bright green door, this father and daughter passed by, and in my eye, they were a replica of each other. He talked the way she did. She walked with every footstep, forcefully hitting the floor just like he did. I can even imagine them whispering to each other's ear about some gossip or how some girl didn't like what she wore, because that's how close they were. To others at Dana, they may have looked past this because it's quite normal for Dana girls to be close to their parents, to be bonded through similar cultures and values. Within the 10 seconds that the father and daughter passed me, I was in awe, envying what they had, because for me, that was unachievable. I was envious of her because she got to act the same way at school as she probably did at home. She brought her natural self to school, and I don't think she'll ever realize how lucky she was to not feel conflicted about herself. But I had forgotten all the little things that my parents have done for me. When he would drive me long hours to volleyball practices, I had forgotten that my mom must face a language barrier at Dana every time she goes and talks to other Dana parents. I cannot believe that I forgot that I was a living proof of my parents' successes, because without them, I would not be standing on this stage here today. But I didn't realize these things until I reflected on myself, figured out who I was and who I wanted to be. Because I used to see myself as 3 different identities and 3 different masks I'd put on in 3 distinct places. But I understand now that those things make me uniquely me. Yes, there will be days where I may not bow my head to adults. However, speaking Vietnamese shouldn't be an embarrassment, because not everyone can speak 2 languages. And yes, I will always enjoy my bubble tea. which in my opinion tastes better than any Starbucks drink, but you know, doesn't make me less American or less of who I am. So I ask you today, who are you? What makes you, you? Do you too suppress parts of yourself in order to feel accepted? If we just bring our different identities into our different cultures, we can expand the minds of the people around us. But I know well that it ain't easy doing that, because if it were, we wouldn't have to be talking about it here today. So I stand here as a person who understands the difficulties of being your whole self and understands that having multiple identities isn't that easy. But if I've learned anything through this, that it's the pursuit of being your whole self is worth it, and that we don't have to leave parts of ourselves behind anymore. Because everyone, this is me. Đây là con. This is all of me. Thank you.